All right, good morning. It's day 3 of our Daniel Bible reading plan, and today you will have finished chapter 2, so that's what we're going to talk about. We're going to run through all of chapter 2 and stop at a few key points along the way, and I just want to point out a few things that I think actually give us a hint as to what the book as a whole is trying to say to us. There are a few things here that you'll see again in chapter 4 and again throughout the rest of the book that really pull everything together. So yesterday, you read about Nebuchadnezzar's dream, and we get a little bit of a picture of what kind of king Nebuchadnezzar is, and it's not a flattering picture for us here today, right? I mean, this is a king who, when he wakes up on the wrong side of the bed, he has a bad dream, people die. He sentences all of his diviners to death when they refuse to tell him not only what his dream means, which is what they're there for, right? Dreams in the ancient Near East were common. Diviners were typically brought in to share the interpretation, but Nebuchadnezzar decides that's not good enough. He also wants these same diviners to tell him what he even dreamed about in the first place, and that's unheard of. And as a result, he's not satisfied with their answer, and so he orders them all to be put to death and their houses with them. Their houses with them probably indicates that he meant their families and all of the people in their household as well. And here's one fun thing that kind of hints to where the story is going in chapter 2, verse 10. When the Chaldeans are at a loss for how the king could be making this request of them, they say, "There's not a man on earth who can meet the king's demand." Not a man on earth. Well, think about it. Daniel isn't going to be the one to tell the king what his dream was or what it means all by himself. Who helps Daniel? God, not a man on earth. It's just foreshadowing. It's really, really clever on behalf of this author. So the king orders that all the wise men of Babylon be destroyed, and unfortunately, Daniel and his friends are among those who are now ordered to be put to death. And so Daniel, hearing this news, tells the guard of the king, "Hold on, not yet. Give me one chance to talk to the king." And so he returns home and gathers his friends around, and he basically prays to God to make this dream known to him. And God does. He delivers. And then here's where I think the theme of the whole book comes into play. Daniel blesses the God of heaven. And in verse 20 through 22 and even on to 23, we get this poem that Daniel cries out to God as a means of blessing God. And it's a beautiful poem. Listen to the first 2 verses. "Blessed be the name of God forever and ever, to whom belong wisdom and might. He changes times and seasons. He removes kings and sets up kings. He gives wisdom to the wise and knowledge to those who have understanding." That's it. This is the theme of this book. We're comparing 2 different types of kingdoms. Nebuchadnezzar's kingdom, where when he wakes up and he's upset, people are going to die, and God's kingdom. And who has ultimate power? If you're a Jew living in the exile, you probably think that the foreign king you're serving has all the power. He's the one who, when he wakes up in a bad mood, you could end up losing your life. He's the one who has taken you forcibly from your homeland. And you're probably wondering at this point, where is God? Does God even care about us anymore? Is God with us? Is God still ruling, or are we now just under the power of this foreign king? And here Daniel touches on something so important. It is God who removes kings and sets up kings. Nebuchadnezzar may think he has all the power. He may think he's the one in control. But as we'll learn, even his very dream is a way of warning that that is not the case. God is the one who sets up kings and can remove kings just as easily, a lesson Nebuchadnezzar will learn in chapter 4. And not only that, God is the one who gives wisdom to the wise. So as Daniel's trying to figure out what this dream of Nebuchadnezzar's means, God is the one who gives him that wisdom. So Daniel goes before the king. He argues on behalf of not just him and his friends. He tells Nebuchadnezzar, "Don't destroy the wise men of Babylon." Here we have an agent of God who is now acting as mediator, not just for his own people, but for the surrounding people who he's with. These are people who are condemned to death, and Daniel steps in to their place and argues on their behalf to a king. I mean, come on, does that not sound familiar at all? It's just a type of what's to come. And Daniel says, I'm going to tell you what this dream means, not because of any wisdom that I have. He's full disclosure. This is not me. He gives all the credit to God. And so at the end of chapter 2, what you're reading today, Daniel actually interprets the dream. And we find out that the dream that Nebuchadnezzar has had is of this great image, which you'll appreciate this when you read chapter 3, tomorrow's reading, what Nebuchadnezzar does with this dream and its interpretation. And the image is this huge statue made of mixed metals. The head is made of gold, and then you have succeedingly lesser quality metals moving all down the rest of the statue's body. And then here's the important part. Out of nowhere, this stone, not hewn by human hands, verse 34, is striking the image on its feet, and it breaks everything up into pieces. And so here, Daniel, doesn't leave us hanging to wonder what this dream means. He actually tells us exactly what it means. He says, "O Nebuchadnezzar, you are the head of gold," end of verse 38. And then he says, another kingdom inferior to you is going to rise up after you. And then a third kingdom of bronze is going to rule over all the earth. And then the fourth kingdom is going to come strong as iron, because iron breaks pieces and shatters all things. And so Daniel's saying, look, kingdoms are going to come one after another. And a lot of work has been done to try and figure out, okay, does this represent Greece or Persia or what? That's fine to argue about and debate about, but I think when we get kind of lost in that, we're missing the heart of what is being said here. Because all these kingdoms come one after another. History has just been a succession of kingdom after kingdom after kingdom. But what is the key here? What comes out of nowhere and crushes all of these? Verse 44. In the days of those kings, all these kings, one after another, the God of the heavens is going to set up a kingdom that shall never be destroyed, nor shall the kingdom be left to any other people. It shall break in pieces all these kingdoms and bring them to an end, and it shall stand forever. Just as you saw that a stone was cut from a mountain by no human hand, and that it broke in pieces all these metals, a great God has made known to the king what shall be after this. This dream is certain and the interpretation sure. So what Daniel is saying, the image that God has given him, the interpretation, is that all these kings mean nothing. These kingdoms mean nothing, because there is coming one day a small stone of a kingdom that's going to look not very mighty at first, but when it comes, it's going to destroy every kingdom that stands in its path. This small stone is going to bring down all of these kingdoms, that it's going to show that they actually mean nothing. And what is this stone? It's the kingdom of God. And when the kingdom of God comes, it's going to fill the earth. What Jesus says starts as a mustard seed will end up filling the earth. And when that kingdom comes, there's nothing that can end it. It's an eternal kingdom. It shall never be destroyed. No one's going to take it from God. So we're left with this picture and a reminder. And again, this is the theme of the book. Even though the people are in exile, God hasn't deserted them. He still has a plan to bring his everlasting kingdom and crush all of these foreign powers where it looks like they're the ones in control. All along, God is still the one who's in control. He's still operating on behalf of his people, and he still has a plan to bring redemption to the whole world and one day set up his kingdom. Now, that is the theme of Daniel, and we're going to really see it next week when we start to read chapter 4. So I hope you're enjoying this plan. Comment down below and let me know if you're on Instagram what you noticed in these chapters. We would love to hear what God is showing you as we continue to read the book of Daniel. Have a great day.